support while encouraging hope and faith. If you have any questions, no matter where you live, if you have any questions, you're looking for resources, you're trying to get resources for yourself or for your loved one, or you have questions about mental illness or anything in general, please, you can always email us. If we don't have the answer, we can put you in touch with someone in your city and state who has the answer. And you can email us at igbatt1@aol.com or support@igbattmho.org. Or you can just go onto our website and get all of the information. Again, we come here to share information and support while encouraging hope and faith via media, but we also do it by phone. We also do it in person. So if you have any questions, you're looking for resources, you need to bounce something off of someone with some experience in severe mental illness, you can email us or give us a call. Today I wanted to start by talking about empowerment and self-determination from a faith-based or Christian viewpoint. Because one of the things when we talk about empowerment and self-determination, there's a lot of focus on the I. And if you're not careful, it can cause you to feel even more overwhelmed and even more anxious. But I wanted to start this broadcast, as I said before, by specifically focusing on those of you who are living or impacted by a severe and persistent mental illness or severe and persistent situation, and you believe in God. You have a faith-based perspective. You believe in Lord Jesus Christ, okay? So I wanted to kind of talk about that and share how these kind of tie in with the scriptures. So when we talk about empowerment and self-determination, one of the things is, when we talk about empowerment and self-determination, this phrase, this viewpoint has come about because for so long, for so many people who are living with a severe and persistent mental illness, didn't feel empowered. They didn't feel that they had choices over their own lives. People would say, here, take this, take that, right? You didn't feel like, you had options. People always told you what to do. You felt small. You felt, for some people living with a severe mental illness, you felt stupid. You felt like something was wrong with you. You didn't feel that you had the confidence to do certain things. So we kind of came up over the years what we call the empowerment and self-determination, which is great. From a believer, from a Christian standpoint, I want you to understand that this is your empowerment and self-determination is found in Jesus Christ. Because here's the thing, once you realize who you are, that you are a son, that in son it doesn't have to do with male or female in that sense, but son, that you have rights, okay, because God loves you, because Jesus Christ loves you, okay, period. It doesn't mean whether you have a mental illness, don't have a mental illness. The scripture talks about there's neither Greek nor Jew, right? Whether you have a mental illness or don't have a mental illness. The fact is, you have a mental illness, you may be hearing voices, you may be seeing things, but God has already taken that into account, all right? So you don't get a pass. There are no blessings that I'm going to get that you're not eligible for, and vice versa, because you have a mental illness, because your loved one has a mental illness. And I want to say this, we talk about victim and victimizer, or victim and abuser. I want you to know that even if you're an abuser, even if you are the person who started the fight, even if you are the person who the rapist or the person who was the sexual abuser, right? There is grace, there is mercy for you as well. So no one gets a pass, okay? And Jesus Christ, when he said, I've come that you might have life and life more abundantly, he's talking to all of us. He's talking to everyone who would accept him. So having a mental illness, hearing voices, there's no stigma. The Bible doesn't have any stigma against you. God doesn't have any stigma against you. He expects you to live up to your standards that he's given you. What is the standards? The standards that Jesus Christ has given you. He said, I've made you that you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that I've come so that you might have life. And you have a responsibility to live up to that standard which is life. So let me talk about this. It says, personal rights. I have the right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. Everyone has a right. Again, why did we have to come up with these rules? Because for too long, individuals who are living with a severe mental illness were not treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. Even now, a lot of people are still not treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. But I want you to know, if you're listening to me and you have a severe mental illness or a mental illness or a severe situation, you have a right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. Why? I want to focus on I. where it says, I have the right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. I want you to understand that that I, from a faith-based perspective, involves the Christ that's in you. Because you are precious, because you are wonderfully made, you have a right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. Okay? You don't have the right, just because you have a mental illness, for people to walk all over you, to take advantage of you. That's not how it goes. You have a right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. God has come just for you so that you might have a life. He's given us life. All things pertaining unto life and godliness He's given us. You have a right to change your mind. Okay? You have a right to change your mind. Again, a lot of times what people will do, especially if they know you have a mental illness, they'll ask you a question. If you say something and then you change your mind, they'll say things like, oh, well, did you take your medicine? Or she's just depressed, or she's just hearing voices, or that's just her schizophrenia, or that's just her bipolar. No, you have a right to change your mind. It doesn't matter if I'm diagnosed with bipolar. It doesn't matter if I'm hearing voices or I'm depressed or whatever my mental illness is. Whatever my illness is, I have a right to change my mind. I said one thing today, I thought about it, and I changed my mind. I want to do something else. You have a right to change your mind. You have a right to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Making mistakes does not have anything to do with having a mental illness or not having a mental illness. Everybody makes mistakes. Okay? Everybody says things that they shouldn't say sometimes. Everybody thinks things that they shouldn't think. We all have a right to make mistakes. We are all human. Okay? So what am I reading off of? This is the personal rights. We're talking about empowerment and self-determination, specifically for those who are living with the symptoms of a severe mental illness or have been impacted by a severe mental illness or negative life situation, who have a belief in God. You have a right to change your mind. You have a right to make mistakes. Okay? Even as a Christian, even as a believer, you have a right to make mistakes. Making mistakes doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that your mental illness is overtaking you or that you need to take your medication. It doesn't mean that you're not a good Christian. It just means that you're human. Okay? That's the reason why we have the Holy Spirit. That's the reason why we have prayer. That's the reason why we can go to God and say, God, help me. This is a mistake that I've made. Okay? Making a mistake. Because see, what happens is people tie making a mistake into... you think just because you made a mistake, you must be a bad person, okay? Because I made a mistake, I'm stupid, okay? And that's why some people get defensive. When people say, okay, I think, you should do this a certain way, we automatically get defensive. We get defensive because many of us are still dealing with rejection issues, right? And that goes into, again, being impacted by severe mental illness. Many people do deal with rejection issues. But I want to let you know, as a result of Jesus Christ coming and giving you life and life more abundantly, you have a right to make mistakes. You're human, okay? You have a right to say, okay, if you say, I'm going to do this today, and then change your mind and do something else, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Okay? Don't tie your mistakes into who you are as a person. Or tied into, okay, there's something wrong with me. I must be stupid. I'm just... I'm not like everybody else. There's something wrong with me. No. Remember, God has taken all of those things into account. You have a right. I have the right to express my feelings in a manner that will not harm others. As long as you're not harming others, you have a right to express your feelings. I may not agree. You may not agree. But you have a right to express your feelings. I have the right to be involved in and sign off on all plans for my treatment. You have a right to sign off on your treatment plans. When you go see your psychiatrist, your clinical social worker, your clinical team, you have a right to say what your treatment goals are and what you don't want them to be. You have a right to get a copy of your treatment plan. You have a right to get a copy of your assessment. And if there's something in there that's in the assessment on the treatment plan that's incorrect, you have a right to ask that it be changed or updated. You have a right to that. You have a right to say no to anything. Okay, I'm going to read it like this. I have the right to say no to anything I feel is unsafe, violates my values, or I'm not ready for. I have the right to say no to anything I feel is unsafe, violates my values, or I am not ready for. You have a right. Okay? Because again, far too long, people living with a severe mental illness are made to feel like you don't have rights, that you don't have the same rights that everybody else has, but you do have the same rights. You have the same rights because you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You have the same rights because you are a human being just like everyone else, right? You have the same rights. You have a right, as I said, to say no. If there's something that you don't want to do, you have a right to say no. And you don't have to give an explanation. You know, if someone wants to borrow money from you and they say, oh, can I borrow $50? Because you're not doing anything with your money anyway, you have a right to say, no, I don't want to do that. Someone, a lot of times I see this with some of my clients that I work with, because you're home or maybe you go to a treatment program, family members take advantage of you. They think because you're home, they can dump their kids off on you. Well, you're home, you can babysit, right? You may not want to babysit. You have a right to say no, period. And you don't have to give an explanation. But unfortunately, some family members try to guilt you. Well, you're not doing anything. You're home all day. Can I borrow $50? Well, you get your Social Security check. Yes, I do. My $666 that I get is for me to pay my rent, to pay my bills, for me to to buy what I want to buy, to pay for my medications, to take care of myself. It's not for me to support everybody who can work, able-bodied individuals. The money is for me. You have a right to say that. Unfortunately, far too many people are exploited, and I'll talk about exploitation maybe at another time. You have a right to determine your own priorities. What is important to you? Sometimes when we're working with an individual from a clinical standpoint, we may have some ideas of what should go on the treatment plan. I may think maybe you should be working on substance use goals. And you may say, I don't want to work on my substance use goals. That's not the number one priority for me. The number one priority for me is maybe getting an income or getting an apartment. Working on my substance abuse goal, while it's important, it's not a goal that I want to work on. You have a right to push back. You have a right to say what is important to you. You have a right to be uniquely yourself. You can be yourself. Whatever yourself is, you have a right to be that way. You have a right to feel scared and say that I'm afraid. Essentially, you have a right to express your feelings. You have a right to say, I don't feel this is good for me. You have a right to say, I feel angry, I feel upset, I feel worried. However way you feel is your feelings, and you have a right to them. Okay? Individuals do not have a right to make you feel small. Okay? I have the right to say, I don't know. And this is a big one, even for individuals who don't have a severe mental illness. A lot of people feel they're afraid to say, I don't know. There's something about that word. There's something about that phrase. There are some people who always feel that they have to have it all together. They feel they have to have it all together. They feel they have to have all of the answers. There are some people who don't even like learning something new because they don't want other people to know that they don't have it all together. They don't want to feel vulnerable. That's not healthy, okay? You have a right to say, I don't know, because you're not God. You don't know everything. You have a right to say, hey, I don't know. Let me look into it. Let me get back to you. Or you have a right to say, I don't know, and I'm not going to get back to you. I just don't know, because that's not something that's an issue for me, a priority for me. The thing is, you don't want people, as we move into 2023, if you're living with a mental illness or a negative life situation, I want you to know that the God in you is more than enough. That in you, you have the I am, okay? And if what does she mean, the I am? I want you to, that's your homework, is to go look it up when I say the I am. When Moses said to God, what should I say? Who should I say sent me? And God said, you know what? If I say apples, then the people who need apple will focus on apple. If I say bananas, the people who say bananas will focus on bananas. I'm just going to say I am. What does that mean? I am. I will be to you whatever I need to be. Okay? Well, I am whatever I need to be. I will be that. Okay? So you have the I am in you. Whether you hear voices, see things, you're depressed, you thought about killing yourself, you've been in and out of hospitals. I don't care how many times you've been in and out of an inpatient hospital situation. I don't care how many treatment programs that you've been in. If you are a believer in Jesus Christ, you have the I am in you. What is the I am? The I am is the ability to create. in you is the ability to be what God has called you to be. You may have to go slower, and you may have to take more breaks than other people, but keep going, because God has already, when He made you, He knew you would hear voices. He knew how many times you would try to kill yourself. He knew how many times you would have to be admitted into the inpatient psych ward. He knew how many times, how many medications you would take. He knew everything about you. Everything He already knew. He knew from the day you were born until the day that you die. He's already taken that into account. There's nothing you could say, there's nothing you could do that will keep Him from loving you. The I am is in you. You have a severe mental illness, the I am is in you. You hear voices, the I am. God is in you. God manifested in the flesh is in you. He'll be to you whatever you need Him to be. The thing is, don't walk in pride, though. What happens is, when people start getting into this truth, they got getting arrogant and thinking the I is them. When we talk about I as a believer, I want you to understand when it says, I have the right. I have the right. Keep in mind, we're talking about I, even though you're saying it, be cognizant of the fact that you're talking about the I am that's in you. God in me. God in me. Christ in me. Okay? I have the ability. The reason you have the ability to change your mind is because you're not afraid to change your mind. You're not afraid to say I was wrong. You're not afraid to make mistakes. You're not going to beat yourself up when you do make mistakes, or when you have to change your mind, or you feel ambivalent. You know, you're going to, okay, God, help me. Because in you, you have the helper in you. You have God in you who can help you. You have God in you who will direct and order your step. He has directed and ordered your steps this far. If you're hearing me, there's some of you who are listening to me, people will be surprised how many times you have attempted to kill yourself. I was talking to someone maybe about a week or 2 weeks ago. He was telling me, about his attempts that he tried to make. And he said, finally I realized, after the third attempt, he said, I finally realized, God wants me here for a reason. I must be here for a reason. So if you're listening to me, you're here for a reason. And it's important for you to understand why you're here. If God has spared your life, as many times as you try to kill yourself, as many times you try to drink yourself to death, as many ODs you've had. Some of you have been sleeping under park benches. Some of you have been under the bridge. Some of you have been beaten within inches of your life. I was talking to this lady, she was talking about the many times that she OD'd, right? The several times that she OD'd, and they meaning medical personnel, had to bring her back, right? But she's still here. And the same is for some of you who are listening to me. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You're here because the I am, God in you, has a reason for you being here. Don't get focused on your voices. Your voices, your depression, your symptoms do not invalidate you. They do not cancel you out. People may cancel you out, but God doesn't. There's something He has for you to do, and He wants you to do it. Okay, and as you begin to focus on Him and focus on the things that you do have, when you begin to focus on who you are through Him and in Him, and less on your inadequacies, the better things will be for you. See, once you're focusing on everything that's going wrong, so that's why things are so big. That's why once something happens to you, you automatically think about negative thoughts. You automatically think about, I'm stupid. You automatically think things will never work out for me. You automatically think that things will never go right for me, right? That's because those are years and years of training. That's how we've trained ourselves to think that way. Especially, again, you're living with a mental illness where you've always had people telling you what to do, or people making you feel small. But I want you to know, as you're moving in 2023, I want you to begin to focus on the I am. The I am that's in me. Focus on the I. Not the I without Christ, but the I that's in Christ, the I that's in me. So when we look at these personal rights and responsibility, I have the right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. Why? Because of the I am that's in me. Because the God that lives in me. I have a right to be treated with dignity, compassion, and respect. I have the right to change my mind. I have a right to change my mind. I'm human. If I say I want to do this one day, and then I get other information, or I have a right to change my mind. I can say, God, I thought I was going to go do this, but I'm changing my mind. I have a right to say, I'm not going to allow the 2022 those negative thoughts that I had in 2022 that impact me in 2023. Yes, I hear voices. Yes, I'm living with a severe mental illness. Yes, I take medications. Yes, I have thoughts of killing myself from time to time. Yes, I've attempted to try to kill myself. Yes, I've OD'd. Yes, I'm using crack, but I'm trying to cut down. Yes, I have, I've been physically abused. Yes, I've been a physical abuser. Yes, I've been raped. Yes, I've been a rapist. Yes, I've been a victim. I've been a victimizer. Yes, I've done all of these bad things, negative things. I've done these things. But now 2023 is a new day. I've repented. I'm moving forward. God is now in my life, and I'm not going to let the mistakes that I made invalidate my testimony. I'm not going to let them invalidate. My testimony is that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. My testimony is that, yes, I've done all these bad things, but I've repented, but God has forgiven me, and I'm going to stand in the grace that God has for me. I'm not going to go backwards. I'm not going to come out of agreement with what God has said. If God says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, that He's created me for a wonderful purpose, that is what I'm going to stand on. Okay? I'm not going to let the mistakes, because the mistakes are going to happen. I'm going to say things. I'm human. Okay? I'm going to change my mind. That's part of being human. Okay? I'm not going to know everything. I'm going to feel afraid. I'm going to feel worried from time to time. I'm going to feel anxious from time to time. I'm just not going to let those anxiety, worry, and fear overtake me or keep me from moving forward, but I'm going to keep moving forward. I have a right to my own needs for personal space and time. I have a right to say, I don't want to take a break. I don't feel like doing this right now. I want to spend some time reading a book. I have a right to be healthy. I have a right to be in a non-abusive environment. You don't have to be in an environment where people are physically abusing you or emotionally abusing you. And we got to be careful with that, because sometimes, because of some of the things we're dealing with emotionally, I want to stop and say this, we can tend to think that every environment is abusive, or every environment is physically abusive or emotionally abusive, and that's because we're still in a healing process. But again, you have a right to be in a non-abusive environment. Okay? You have a right to make friends and be comfortable around people. You have a right to change and grow. You have a right to your own spiritual beliefs. A lot of people don't, especially in the field, don't like to believe in God. I think, sometimes you have people who are professionals who mock people who have a mental illness who believe in God. And then you have people who are in the faith base, who are spiritual, who mock people who have a mental illness and believe in God. But I want you to know that you have a right to say that I believe in God, that I'm a Christian and I hear voices. I'm a Christian and I have a mental illness. I have a Christian and I pray, I read the Word, I fast, and I still have a mental illness. Just like those Christians can say that they're Christians and they have cancer. We don't say, if you have cancer, you must, you did something wrong. We don't say that. We don't say that to people who have bronchitis or high blood pressure. So many people have hypertension, but yet they're Christians. They believe God, they pray, they fast, but they have hypertension. So many people got COVID, but they're Christians. They believe in God, they pray, they fast. Right? So this, in 2023, just because you have a mental illness, that doesn't make your faith in God any less or greater than anyone else's. Okay? So again, as we move into 2023, you have an empowerment. I was talking about empowerment and self-determination. You have a right. Okay? You have certain rights. As you live in this world, living with a mental illness. Living with a mental illness can be a challenge. Living with a mental illness, especially as a child, some of you, as I said before, you've been made to feel a certain way. But as you move into 2023, I want you to know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you have rights. You have certain God-given biblical rights that you have. You have a right to say no. You have a right to change your mind. You have a right to say, I'm not the person I used to be. You have a right to make mistakes. You have a right to say you don't know. You don't have to feel like you have to have all of the answers. Because see, when you don't know and when you make mistakes, that's an opportunity for you to say, God, help me. That's an opportunity for you to connect with the I am that's in you. So again, this has been It's Getting Better All the Time mental health outreach, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith. I just wanted to start the New Year's off by talking specifically to individuals who are living with a severe and persistent mental illness and who are Christians and who are believers in Jesus Christ or have a faith-based belief system. Because I want you to understand that there's no symptom that you can have that will invalidate the love that God has for you. There's no symptom. There is no symptom. There's no medications. There's nothing that you could do that can invalidate the love that He has for you. He says that His ear is never so heavy that He can't hear you. His His hand is never so short that He can't reach you. If you are living with a severe persistent mental illness and you are a Christian, God still loves you. And it's not about Him just loving you. He has a plan for you. There's a reason why you are here. You are fearfully and you are wonderfully made, okay? So I want you to know that. I want you to begin to think about, what are those things that you like doing? What are those things that people say that you're good at? What are those things that you wanted to try and that you've never tried? What are those things that, if someone asks you, okay, what do you want to be in life? And the first thing you would say, oh, I can't do that. Because see, what happens is when we start thinking things, when we start thinking big, when God starts saying, okay, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, I have something for you to do, what automatically happens, those negative thoughts come and they shut us down. We start getting happy. Maybe I could do this. And instantly the thought will come, well, no, you can't do that because you don't speak well. You can't do this. I remember when I first started doing this. They're like, oh, you can't do this because you stutter. You can't do this because you talk fast. You can't do this. Nobody will listen. You can't do this because for whatever. But what it is, what I said, you know what? Somebody's going to listen. They will rewind the tape, slow it down. Somebody will listen, okay? Maybe not everybody, because I'm not talking to everybody. But those of you who I'm talking to, you will slow it down. You will understand what I'm saying. So the thing is, it's the same with you. Don't let your handicap, your weaknesses, your things that you don't do well, your deficiencies, don't stop you. Because do not compare yourself with other people. No, I may not speak as well as T.D. Jakes or Joyce Meyer or whoever. You may not speak as well as T.D. Jakes. You may not look as good as, I don't know, whoever's out there. You may not look as good as that person. But whatever it is that's in your heart to do, pray and know that God, commit that thing to God and say, God, I want to do this because I want to give you glory. I want to show myself, I want you to show yourself strong in my life. I want people to see that in spite of having a severe mental illness, that I can read. That in spite of having a mental illness, I can volunteer. That in spite of having a mental illness, I can start a business. I can go to school. I can raise a family. I can do the things that you would call me, that you would have me to do. Don't let your weaknesses, your symptoms stop you in 2023 because you have no excuse. You don't have to, because God has already taken into account. What is stopping us is not the illness. It's not your symptoms that's stopping you. It's not your illness. It's not your diagnosis. That's not what's stopping you. What's stopping you is what we think. What we tell ourselves is how we feel. Like I said before, thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are connected. What's stopping you is what you think about yourself. It's what you feel about yourself. If you think that you can't, then you won't. If you think that you're a weakling, if you think that you're stupid, and you allow those thoughts to stop you, then you won't. Then it's going to impact your behavior, and you won't do anything, right? If you think that, oh, okay, I have a mental illness, or all of these voices in my head, I take too many medications, things won't work out, I'm just destined to be a person to take medications and to live in a one room all of my life, then that's what's going to happen. But God didn't call you to that. God never called you to a small life, because when He called you, I want to say this again. He already knew that you would have symptoms. He already knew that you would hear voices. He already knew the things that you're saying that disqualify you. He already knew you would have these problems. He already knew that. He already knew you would have these problems and challenges. But despite those things, He is saying to you, I'll love you with an everlasting love. He is saying to you that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and He has a purpose for you. So you have an option. You can live a small life and stay stuck in your symptoms and let your symptoms slow you down. Stop you. They may slow you down, and that's okay. You may go, you may be, on track for a week, and then something happens. You may have an episode, and then you're off track for 2 weeks. No problem. Just get back on track. Okay? Just keep going. Just keep moving forward. Just keep praying. Just asking God, Lord, help me, Jesus. Lord, help me to endure. Help me to keep moving forward. And He'll do that. Because some of you don't even realize just how far you've come. Because you focus on your relapse. Right? Oh, I had another relapse. But look at how long it's been between the relapses. Right? Look at, you're not in the same place that you were this relapse that you were at the last relapse. You're not in the same place. You're not in, this hospitalization is different from the last hospitalization. You learn more, you know more, right? So again, I want to say it again. Having symptoms, letting your symptoms hold you back, is you making an excuse. It's nothing but an excuse, okay? Having you saying that I can't do it because I have symptoms, because of mental illness, is nothing more than an excuse. That's all it is. It's like people saying, well, I could say for me myself, saying that, oh, I would go exercise Monday, but it's too cold. That's an excuse. I don't want to go exercise because I'm just lazy and don't want to go exercise, right? So I have to be honest with that. But the thing is, don't put that on God. Don't put the fact that you can't do something on God, because that is not true. Faith without works is dead. In 2023, faith without works is dead. You're living with a severe mental illness, just know you may move slower, but you can still move forward. So the fact that you have a mental illness, that you hear voices, that you're depressed, that you're anxious, that you're having a bipolar episode, all of these things may slow you down, but they don't have to stop you permanently. Don't let your symptoms be an excuse for why you can't live your life to the fullest, because you can. You can live your life to the fullest. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. The I am is in you. What does that mean? He will be whatever He needs to be in your life. If you need courage, at the moment you need courage, He'll be that for you. If you need understanding, if you need wisdom, He'll give you those things. He'll be that for you. So again, remember, don't let your symptoms be an excuse. Move forward. Do what you can do. Find out the reason why you're still here. You tried to kill yourself so many times, you're still here. There has to be a reason. You've OD'd so many times, and by some miracle, you're still here. Find out why. Okay? You've been, so many bad things have happened to you in life. You've been overcome abuse. You're dealing with sexual abuse, physical abuse, rape, poverty, all the bad things that have happened to you. You're still here. Don't let those things be an excuse for you just to live a small life. Having a mental illness does not mean that you have to live a small life or you have to live a life that's limited. Don't let your symptoms limit you. Travel. And travel can be just going to a new neighborhood. I'm surprised how so many people live in one neighborhood and have never been out of their neighborhood their entire lives. Right? So for you, traveling may be going to a new neighborhood. It could be trying a new food. It could be going to a new store that you've never gone in before. Do something different. You are entitled to live a full life. The scripture talks about prospering in all areas of our lives. Spirit, soul, body. God desires for you to prosper in all of those areas. Don't let your symptoms cause you to play it small or to limit you. Again, this is It's Getting Better All the Time Mental Health Outreach with your host, Sister A. Legree, providing information and support while encouraging hope and faith. God bless you and have a great day.